The average British household throws away 700 pounds worth of food every single year. Your grandmother threw away almost none of it, not because she had more money, because she had a freezer system that the modern food industry has spent 50 years quietly making you forget. Number 3 on this list saves families over 400 pounds a year. Number 19 turns kitchen scraps into something restaurants charge serious money for. And number 1 is so simple, it takes 30 seconds and costs nothing whatsoever. Let us count down all 25. Number 25, keep a freezer list on the door. Before any trick on this list works properly, this one has to be in place. A piece of paper taped to the freezer door. Every item that goes in gets written down. Every item that comes out gets crossed off. That is the entire system. It sounds too simple to mention, and that is precisely why almost nobody does it. The average British household has between 40 and 60 pounds worth of food sitting forgotten in the freezer at any given time. Not because people do not care, because they cannot see it. Chicken breast buried under a bag of peas bought 3 months later. A portion of bolognese invisible behind a stack of forgotten leftovers. The list costs nothing. It takes 30 seconds to update, and it stops you buying things you already own every single week. Every trick that follows on this list becomes twice as effective when you know exactly what you have. Start here. Number 24. Freeze curry base or stew base. A homemade curry base made in bulk costs roughly 3 pounds in ingredients and produces 12 portions. A jar of shop-bought paste costs $2.50 and makes 1. The maths is not subtle. On a Sunday afternoon, fry down 4 large onions, a head of garlic, a thumb of ginger, 2 tins of tomatoes, and your spices in a big pan for 20 minutes until it reduces and darkens. Ladle into ice cube trays or small tubs. Freeze flat. Each portion drops straight into a hot pan with whatever protein you have. Dinner for 2 in 15 minutes. Over a year, if you eat curry or stew once a week, making and freezing your own base saves between 80 and 100 pounds on jars and paste alone. The flavor is not comparable. The jar tastes like a jar. The batch you made yourself tastes like you cooked. Number 23. Freeze cheese, ends and trimmings. The dried corner of a cheddar block. The last inch of a red Leicester nobody finished. The Parmesan rind left after the cheese ran out. None of it goes in the bin. It all goes into one dedicated freezer bag, grated or broken into pieces first. Over the course of a month, that bag fills itself with the kind of mixed cheese that restaurants pay good money for in their kitchen. Tip it frozen over a toastie, stir it into a pasta bake, melt it into a sauce. A 400g block of cheddar costs around £3.50. If you save even 1 block a month from going dried and crumbly before you finish it, that is 42 pounds a year, retrieved from the bin and returned to your plate. The texture after freezing is slightly more crumbly than fresh. For cooking and melting, there is no difference at all. Number 22. Freeze sausages in small packs. A pack of 8 sausages from Tesco costs around £2.50. If you are cooking for 1 or 2, you need 3 or 4 at most. The rest sit in the fridge for days, getting grayer and stickier, until they either get used in something mediocre just to finish them or go in the bin. The fix takes 2 minutes at the point of purchase. Split the pack into 2 portions, each wrapped in a small piece of greaseproof paper and bagged separately. Freeze them immediately. Pull out exactly what you need for 1 meal. The rest keeps for 3 months at full quality. The same principle applies to bacon, to chicken thighs, to lamb chops, to any meat sold in quantities larger than 1 meal needs. Buy in the larger pack because it is cheaper per unit. Portion immediately because the saving only holds if nothing goes to waste. Number 21. Freeze butter if it is nearly out of date. Butter freezes perfectly. The texture does not change. The flavor does not change. Baking butter straight from the freezer can be grated on a box grater into flour for pastry and scones, producing lighter, flakier results than butter at room temperature because it distributes more evenly before it has a chance to melt. A 250g block costs around £1.85. Buying it on offer and freezing immediately means you never pay full price. More practically, a block sitting in the fridge past its date does not need to go in the bin. It goes in the freezer and comes out 3 months later in exactly the condition it went in. The habit of freezing butter before it expires rather than after it already has saved your grandmother money every single week. She did not treat the use-by date as a death sentence. She treated it as a reminder to act. Number 20. Freeze cooked vegetables for soups, the last 2 florets of broccoli, the half courgette nobody finished, the roasted peppers left over from Tuesday. All of it goes into one freezer bag dedicated entirely to future soup. Every few days, something gets added. After 2 or 3 weeks, the bag is full. Tip it into a pot with a stock cube and enough water to cover. Simmer for 20 minutes. Blend. Season. That is a liter of soup that costs nothing beyond what was already paid for in the weekly shop. A tin of Heinz tomato soup costs around £1. A carton of fresh supermarket soup costs 2 to 3 pounds. Your blended bag of rescued vegetable scraps costs 0 and tastes of actual vegetables rather than salt and starch. This is not a recipe. It is a reflex that turns food that was heading for the bin into lunch. Pattern break 1. The freezer graveyard problem. Here's what happens in most British kitchens. Something gets frozen with good intentions. It goes in unlabeled. A week later, something else goes in on top of it. Then a third thing. Then a bag of peas from the supermarket because nobody remembered there were already 2 at the back. Within a month, the freezer is a solid wall of frost and mystery, and the only time it gets properly sorted is when the door stops closing. That 20-minute clear-out always produces the same discoveries. 3 identical bags of mince, a chicken breast from 4 months ago, something in foil that no longer has an identity. The freezer graveyard costs the average British household real money every year, not through any single catastrophic waste event, but through the slow accumulation of forgotten food that was bought, frozen with good intentions, and never eaten. Every trick on this list solves a specific part of that problem. The list on the door from number 25 ties them all together. Number 19. Freeze stock in ice cube trays. A roast chicken carcass costs nothing. You already paid for it when you bought the chicken. Put it in a pot with a halved onion, a carrot snapped in 2, a stick of celery, a few peppercorns, and enough cold water to cover. Bring it slowly to a simmer and leave it for 2 hours. Strain it. Cool it. Pour it into ice cube trays and freeze. Each cube adds a depth of flavor to rice, risotto, pan sauces, and gravies that a shop-bought stock cube cannot approximate. A carton of fresh chicken stock from Waitrose costs £2 for 500 milliliters. Your carcass produces roughly a liter for nothing. Over a year, making and freezing stock from every roast saves between 40 and 60 pounds in bought stock alone. Parmesan rinds, ham bones, and prawn shells all work the same way. The bin is the wrong destination for anything that still has flavor to give. Number 18. Freeze mashed potato into patties. Leftover mash goes cold, goes heavy, goes into the fridge, and gets eaten reluctantly the next day or quietly thrown away 3 days later. The better use is immediate. While it is still warm, shape it into flat patties or round portions on a lined tray. Freeze uncovered for 2 hours until solid. Transfer to a bag. Each patty reheats in a pan with a little butter in 5 minutes, coming out with a golden crust that the original mash never had. 2 patties and a fried egg is a proper lunch that costs nothing beyond what was already made. A bag of potatoes costs around £1.50. The mash you rescue from being thrown away 3 days after the roast is effectively free food. Your grandmother never let leftover mash go to waste. She turned it into potato cakes, into pie toppings, into the base of tomorrow's supper. The freezer is simply the modern version of that habit. Number 17. Freeze pancakes and waffles. Shrove Tuesday produces more pancakes than any household can eat in one sitting. The same is true of any morning when someone makes a full batch of waffles. The surplus almost always sits on the counter, gets nibbled at cold, and gets thrown away by evening. The fix is to cook the full batch deliberately, let them cool completely,
Separate each one with a square of greaseproof paper, bag them, and freeze. A pancake reheats in a toaster or in a dry pan in 2 minutes. A waffle goes straight into the toaster from frozen and comes out better than it went in. A pack of 8 Aunt Bessie's frozen pancakes costs £1.50. Your homemade batch, made from flour, eggs, and milk, costs roughly 30 pence for 8. If you replace one bought pack a week with your own frozen ones, that is £62 a year. For pancakes, the maths on convenience food is always embarrassing once you do it.
Number 16. Freeze pastry scraps. Every time you make a pie or a tart, there is leftover pastry. It gets trimmed from the edges, pressed together into a rough ball, wrapped in cling film, and placed in the fridge with the intention of using it within a day or two. Then it gets forgotten. Then it goes in the bin. The correct move is to freeze it immediately after trimming. Press the scraps flat in a bag. Label it with the type of pastry, short crust, or rough puff, and the date. Within a month of regular baking, that bag contains enough pastry for a small tart, a batch of cheese straws, or a lid for a midweek pie. A block of ready-made short crust costs around £1.20. The scraps you rescue cost nothing because they came off something you already made. Your grandmother never threw away pastry. She treated it as the beginning of the next thing, not the end of the current one. Number 15. Freeze stale bread into breadcrumbs. Every heel of bread, every end slice the children refuse, every crust that goes hard before it can be eaten goes into a dedicated bag in the freezer. Once the bag is full, spread the pieces on a tray and dry them in a low oven for 30 minutes. Blitz in a food processor or crush in a bag with a rolling pin. Return to the freezer in a clean bag. Shake it once a week to keep the crumbs loose. You now have a permanent supply that costs nothing for the rest of the year. A box of Paxo breadcrumbs costs around £1.50. Your version costs nothing because it comes from bread already paid for. The flavor is better because it is made from actual bread rather than industrially dried grain. Use them for fish, for chicken escallops, for crumble toppings, for stuffing, for gratin dishes. The bag replenishes itself automatically as long as bread comes into the house. Pattern break 2. What the food industry does not want you to calculate. Supermarkets make more money when you waste food. That is not speculation. That is how the economics work. Chicken breasts are sold in packs of 4 rather than 2 because research showed that households of 2 will still buy 4 and throw 2 away rather than visit a second shop that sells pairs. Bread is given a 5-day shelf life when it freezes for 3 months without quality loss, because a shorter date means you buy more frequently. Reduced packaging sizes across the past decade have made portions smaller while keeping prices similar, which means you run out faster and shop more often. Every trick in this list is something the food industry would rather you did not systematically apply. A household that freezes properly, portions correctly, and wastes almost nothing shops less often and spends less money. That is not a desirable customer. Your freezer is not just an appliance. Used correctly, it is a direct financial argument against a system designed to make you overbuy. Number 14. Freeze berries at their ripest. A punnet of summer strawberries at peak ripeness costs around £1 from a market stall or farm shop. The same strawberries in January cost £3 to £4 and taste of nothing. The trick is open freezing. Spread the berries in a single layer on a lined baking tray. Freeze uncovered for 2 hours until each one is individually solid. Transfer to a bag. They pour out separately like shop-bought frozen fruit rather than coming out as one solid block. A handful goes straight from the bag into porridge, into a crumble, into a smoothie, into a sauce. Bought frozen berries from the supermarket cost around £2 for 400 grams. Your summer punnet at £1 produces the same quantity at half the price and with incomparably better flavor. Buy heavily in July and August when the price drops and the quality peaks. Freeze the excess. Eat summer in November. Number 13. Freeze bananas before they go black. The moment bananas go spotted and brown, they are perfect for 2 things: eating immediately because they are at their sweetest and freezing for baking. Peel them first. This is the critical step. Attempting to peel a frozen banana is a 5-minute battle with a knife that ends in frustration. Peeled and frozen in a bag, they last 6 months. Thawed, they are sweeter and softer than fresh bananas and produce a better, moister banana bread than any bought at Peak Yellow. One frozen banana replaces an egg in most cake recipes, which saves money twice over. A bunch of 6 bananas costs around 75 pence. If you rescue one bunch a month from going in the bin, that is £9 a year saved on fruit before you count the egg substitution. It is a small number until you start adding up every small number on this list. Then it becomes a very large one. Number 12. Freeze leftover roast meat. Sunday's roast chicken should feed the household at least twice, ideally 3 times. The joint comes out of the oven. Everyone eats. The remaining meat, stripped clean from the bone while it is still warm, because cold roast chicken is harder to slice neatly, goes into a freezer bag in portions, labeled with what it is and the date. It reappears on Wednesday as the filling for a pie with a pastry lid made from the scraps in the freezer bag from number 16. It reappears on Thursday as the base of a soup made from the stock cubes frozen in number 19. One chicken at around £5 becomes 3 separate meals across the week. The cost per meal drops to under £2. Your grandmother did not cook a roast and eat it once. She cooked it once and ate from it 4 times. That arithmetic is still available to anyone with a freezer bag and a pen. Number 11. Freeze soup in tubs. A large pot of homemade soup costs between $1.50 and $2.50 in ingredients and produces 6 to 8 portions. A shop-bought carton of fresh soup costs between £2 and £3 for 2 portions. The financial case for batch cooking soup and freezing it is one of the most straightforward on this entire list. Make a big pot on a Sunday. Ladle into individual tubs, freeze flat. Each portion goes into a bag once solid and stacks neatly. A frozen portion defrosts in the microwave in 4 minutes or in a pan in 10. Lunch for under 40 pence versus £2.50 from a supermarket carton or £5 from a cafe. If you replace 3 bought lunches a week with a frozen homemade portion, that is over £300 a year. £300 from soup. The number sounds implausible until you do the arithmetic and realize it is conservative. Number 10. Freeze cooked mince in meal-sized bags. Cooking raw mince in bulk and freezing it portioned is more economical than freezing it raw. Brown a kilogram of mince with onion, drain the fat, season it, and cool it completely. Divide into 4 flat freezer bags, each containing a portion for 2 people. Press them completely flat and freeze like books. A flat pack of cooked mince defrosts in 20 minutes on the counter. Raw mince in a lump takes 2 hours or more. A kilo of beef mince at Aldi costs around £3.50. 4 flat packs in the freezer mean 4 weeknight suppers, each needing only the addition of a tin of tomatoes for bolognese, a tin of kidney beans for chili, or a layer of mashed potato for shepherd's pie. 15 minutes from frozen bag to finished meal. No planning required beyond looking at the list on the door. Pattern break 3, the one rule that makes everything else work. 1 in, 1 out. Every time something goes into the freezer, something comes out for the next meal. This single rule prevents the freezer from becoming what most British freezers quietly become, which is an archive of good intentions that nobody ever revisits. It forces rotation. It means the soup from 2 weeks ago gets eaten before the soup from this week goes in. It means the chicken breast from last month does not get buried by the sausages bought yesterday. Write the rule on the list taped to the door. Follow it once and it becomes automatic. The households saving the most money on food are not the ones with the largest freezers or the most elaborate systems. They are the ones who simply know what they own and use it in the order it arrived. This costs nothing. It changes everything. Number 9. Freeze garlic cloves. A whole bulb of garlic costs around 40 pence. Used steadily, it lasts a fortnight on the counter before individual cloves start to go rubbery and develop that bitter, sharp edge that ruins a dish rather than improving it. Peeled cloves dropped into a small freezer bag freeze individually if you spread them on a tray first for an hour. Once frozen, they go into a bag and stay separate. Grate them from frozen on a fine grater straight into a hot pan. No chopping board, no sticky fingers, no bitter sprouted clove turning a sauce acrid. A bulb in the freezer lasts months rather than weeks. Buy in bulk when the price is right. Freeze immediately. The jars of pre-minced garlic paste that cost 2 pounds and taste of chemicals become completely unnecessary. The money spent on them stops leaving your kitchen entirely. Number 8. Freeze ginger whole. Whole ginger left on the counter dries to a woody stick within a week. Left in the fridge, it develops mold at the cut end within a fortnight. Dropped into the freezer whole and unwrapped, it lasts indefinitely. Grate it from frozen on a fine microplane straight into whatever is cooking. No peeling required at any point. The skin grates away to nothing. The flesh stays completely fresh, sharp, and fragrant. A thumb of fresh ginger costs around 30 pence. A jar of pre-minced ginger paste costs £1.80 and tastes of preservatives rather than the clean heat of the real thing. Buying fresh ginger and freezing it whole eliminates waste entirely, produces better flavor in every dish it touches, and costs a fraction of the convenience alternative. This is the trick that once learned is never unlearned. The ginger goes in the freezer the day it comes home. Every time. Without discussion. Number 7. Freeze fresh herbs in oil. A packet of fresh herbs from the supermarket costs around £1, comes in more quantity than most recipes need, and goes slimy in the fridge within 4 days. The fix is immediate. Chop the surplus, pack it into ice cube trays, cover with olive oil. Freeze. Each cube is a pre-portioned portion of herb and oil that drops straight into a hot pan, releasing flavor into whatever it touches. The oil prevents freezer burn and keeps the color bright rather than the dark brown you get from herbs that have been forgotten at the back of the fridge. A single packet of parsley stretched across 6 oil cubes gives weeks of flavor instead of 3 days. Over a year, if you cook regularly with fresh herbs and apply this to every packet, the saving runs to between 40 and 60 pounds. That is the cost of 1 weekly shop returned to your pocket from a handful of ice cube trays. Number 6. Freeze leftover gravy. Most Sunday roast gravy goes down the sink. The main course is finished. The plates are cleared, and the half-full gravy jug gets tipped away during the washing up without anyone really deciding to waste it. The correct action takes 90 seconds. Ladle the leftover gravy into a silicone muffin tin or small tubs. Freeze until solid. Pop the frozen discs into a freezer bag. Each one is a perfect individual portion that drops into a hot pan and melts in 2 minutes. Proper gravy, made from pan drippings and stock, not from granules. A pot of Bisto Best costs around $2.50 and tastes of salt and brown coloring. Your frozen gravy costs nothing because it was made from the meat you already cooked. Reappear it on a Wednesday over sausages and mash. Use it as the base of a midweek pie. Eat like it is Sunday in the middle of the week for free. Number 5. Freeze cooked rice flat. Rice has an undeserved reputation as dangerous to reheat, which stops most people from ever freezing it. The reality is straightforward. Cook the rice. Spread it on a tray to cool within an hour of cooking. Once cool, portion into flat freezer bags, press out every trace of air, and freeze immediately. Reheat from frozen in the microwave with a splash of water for 2 minutes. It comes out perfectly fluffy, with no trace of the gluey texture that refrigerated leftover rice develops overnight. A kilo bag of basmati costs around $1.75 and makes roughly 10 portions. Having 6 flat packs of cooked rice in the freezer means a proper stir-fry or curry is 15 minutes away on any weeknight. It means you do not order a takeaway because there is nothing quick in the house. A takeaway for 2 costs an average of 25 pounds. Your frozen rice costs 17 pence a portion. The decision is not complicated. Number 4. Freeze tomato paste in blobs. A tin of double concentrate tomato paste costs around 90 pence. Most recipes call for 1 tablespoon. Without a system, the remaining paste goes into the fridge in the open tin, grows a gray fur coat within 5 days, and gets thrown away. That 90 pence tin becomes a 9 pence tablespoon and 81 pence of waste. The fix takes 3 minutes. Dollop tablespoon-sized portions onto a lined tray. Freeze solid. Transfer to a bag. Each blob drops straight into a hot pan from frozen and melts into a sauce, a stew, or a soup in seconds. One tin now lasts 2 months instead of 5 days. Over a year, the saving on tomato paste alone is around 8 to 10 pounds. It is not a dramatic number in isolation. It is the number multiplied by every similar small waste happening in your kitchen every week that becomes the 700 pounds figure in the first line of this video. Number 3. Freeze grated cheese. A 400g block of Cathedral City on offer at 2 pounds should be bought in quantity. Every block that does not fit in the fridge gets grated immediately while it is still at its best and frozen flat in a labeled bag. Grated frozen cheese can be sprinkled from frozen directly onto toast, pasta, jacket potatoes, and gratin dishes. It melts identically to fresh. The texture after freezing becomes slightly more crumbly, which means it is no longer suitable for a cheese board, but perfectly suited for everything cooked and melted. Buying cheese on offer and freezing it immediately rather than buying it as needed at full price saves between 20 and 40 pounds a year for a household that uses cheese regularly in cooking. The additional saving comes from never throwing away the dried, shrunken wedge at the back of the fridge that nobody wanted to eat, but nobody threw away until it was unmistakably gone off. Number 2. Freeze milk in portions. A 4-pint bottle of semi-skimmed costs around £1.15 at most supermarkets. If the household does not get through it before it turns, that £1.15 goes directly down the sink. It happens in millions of British kitchens every single week. The fix is to pour the surplus, the last pint that is not going to be used before it sours, into an ice cube tray or small freezer container the day before it would turn. Each cube is roughly 2 tablespoons. Drop 1 into tea, drop 2 into porridge, drop 3 into a white sauce. They melt without any detectable change in flavor or texture. A household that wastes 1 pint of milk a week and stops doing so saves over 60 pounds a year on milk alone. 60 pounds. From milk. The argument for applying every trick on this list is not made from the large numbers. It is made from the sum of every small number that adds up across a full year of cooking. Number 1. Freeze bread in slices. The single most effective freezer trick available to any British household, costs nothing, requires no special equipment, and eliminates one of the most common and most expensive food waste habits in the country. A standard 800g loaf costs around £1.35. Most families waste at least a third of every loaf to mold before it is finished. That is 45 pence per loaf in the bin. Multiply that across a year, and the average household throws away between 50 and 70 pounds on bread alone. The fix: slice the loaf on the day of purchase if it is not pre-sliced. Place a small square of greaseproof paper between every 2 slices. Bag the whole loaf and freeze immediately. Pull out 2 slices when needed. They go straight into the toaster from frozen. Perfect toast in 3 minutes. The sandwich bread defrosts on the counter in 15 minutes. Nothing molds, nothing goes stale, nothing gets eaten reluctantly just to avoid throwing it away. Your grandmother never wasted a loaf of bread. Now, neither will you. Share in the comments which one you are going to try. If this was useful for you, hit subscribe for more videos like this.